Hi everybody, I am going to talk today about Dave and how I let him fall through the cracks. This is a story that dates back a few decades, but it's going to shed light on what's going on in the world today as far as healthcare and how you can help yourself. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Lisa Ann Homick from Homick Advanced Chiropractic. And why is it advanced? Because we are going to reacquaint you with your body. And I'm also the teacher of Brain First Boot Camp. Because the brain makes the body so you can make your life. And if we're not focusing brain first, we're actually going backwards. We're going in the wrong order, in an order that is going to get us lost. Now, we have to translate our pain correctly, and I know that's what moves us in the world, responding to pain. Sometimes we just go, and then all of a sudden we have pain and it stops us, and we just want to get out of pain at all costs. That's not the right way to focus. I teach people how to translate their pain correctly. It's like another language, and I teach you a different language because we've gone off the tracks and made things a lot worse. In fact, brain drain, learned helplessness is actually the most devastating problem on the planet. And you may call it different things, maybe some disease names, but it all starts out the same way, and that is misinterpreting the nervous system. And when we do that, we put ourselves in a whole world of hurt. But I want to talk about something that really stuck with me all these years and share that with you. So when I was a mental health therapist, I worked in a satellite community mental health office and saw a lot of folks who were labeled chronically mentally ill. I do not like labels. Sometimes it's a starting point. It helps me get people on the same page, but those aren't words I want to continue with because they're damaging. They set you up in your brain to feel like you're a failure, to feel like you've got more problems than you can solve, and that they're unsolvable, and that's not where we want to go in life. So those labels I don't want to use anymore. So in this mental health office, and even back then, I didn't like that. It was something to put down on the notes, put down on the piece of paper, something to bill the insurance company, but it's not, I don't want it to stick. I don't want it to be following somebody the rest of their lives. And that's how it is with your medical records. That's how it is with insurance codes. And yes, your health history is important, but your health history shouldn't be impacting you today in a negative way. So Dave was with me and the psychiatrist one afternoon. Now I worked with him for maybe a year or so, and rather than going into all of the labeling and why he's labeled, I'm just going to say he was talking to us at his doctor's appointment. The psychiatrist provides the drugs, I provide the therapy. And does it work? I don't know. I didn't stay in that job for very long because I didn't like the way people were being treated. And if you say, would I do this to my own family member? Then that you have to ask yourself that. Do I want to do this every day of my life? If that was my mom, if that was my sister, my brother, how would I be dealing with them? And certainly not the way I prefer, especially in the mental health system. He said to us, I have pain. I can't remember where. He says, I hurt, pain in his body. So what did the psychiatrist say? He said, well, that is not in my scope of practice as a psychiatrist. You need to go to your physician. Testing, whatever. Your physician has to diagnose this and figure out your bodily pain. So off he went. He came back for his follow-up appointment, and this is what he said. Well, I went to my family physician, And he did blood work, ran tests, and said everything is normal. So it's all in your head. Go back to your psychiatrist. Let that sink in. That's not the first time I've heard that. Even as a chiropractor, I still hear my practice members say to me, I was told it's all in my head. And this is how I respond. I say, well, yes, it's in your nervous system. And now that you understand that and that we've misinterpreted the nervous system for a long time, hundreds of years, I'm going to say, a couple of centuries, we've misinterpreted how the nervous system is working. And we've gone in the wrong direction when it comes to health. So, poor Dave, not getting help from the psychiatrist, not getting help from the family physician. What happens to him? He falls through the cracks. And there I am sitting in front of him, kind of dumbfounded, saying, well, I'm the therapist here. What do I say to that? I say, oh, I'm sorry. I feel bad for you. What was I saying deep down inside of myself? I was saying, this is wrong. We have all these health professions, these health disciplines that don't help. Now, I let him fall through the cracks. I feel like I'm part of the blame. Now, if I look back, I say, yes, I let him fall through the cracks. What was I supposed to do? I was pretty young back then. I didn't know any better. I didn't know what to do in this situation because I relied on my education. Just like you all do. You relied on your education and what other people told you, and you have college professors who learned from their college professors, who learned from their college professors, and sometimes we are taught the same things over and over, and we don't say, where did that come from? And was it adequately tested? Or are we just believing? And I'm going to pose this to you. When people say high blood pressure can cause a stroke, do you know what? We don't actually know that. I went back in the literature and every abstract says it is commonly understood that a high blood pressure causes a stroke. Now they admit it. They admit that is their guess because I couldn't find any scientific investigations comparing people with high blood pressure and following them for a significant number of years to see how many actually came up with stroke. How many of them had a stroke? I don't think we've ever tested it. We just assume it and believe it, and everybody just follows that paradigm. Now, the one article I did look at in the peer-reviewed literature said, by the way, there's a lot of other variables that impact the situation of stroke, which would be obesity, sedentary lifestyle. And they really didn't say it, and I don't think anybody wants to say it. Nobody wants to go against the conventional wisdom. I can't even say it was tested properly as a hypothesis. So, what did I do back then with poor Dave? Nothing. Except I did start thinking about how can I reach people in a more effective way. When I say fall through the cracks, nobody really took on his situation and delved into it deeply. Oh, sure, the psychiatrist probably gave him some antipsychotic medication or some anti-depression medication and just said, come back in 3 months. And in 3 months, did he still have the pain? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes because it was not addressed the way it should be addressed. And when I went into the field of counseling, I really thought I was somewhere where I can make a difference. And unfortunately, there's too much stacked against me and stacked against Dave in order to really make a difference in his life. Now, decades later, with experience under my belt, I am here to share with people that there is a different way, and we can look at how is the nervous system functioning? How is your brain taking in the world? How is it taking in your internal world as well? Because your internal health is going to affect your mental health as well as your physical health. So all these things are being assessed by your nervous system, and your nervous system is responding the way it sees fit to handle the situation. And I've talked about this in other videos. Everything your brain does is correct for the situation. We've got to unravel the situation so you can actually understand it and respond in a way that's going to be more, you're more of a partner with your brain, not an adversary with your brain and body, because a lot of the things we do are not healthy and not helpful. So go back to other videos and look at different episodes that I've created talking about what does the nervous system do when it's faced with a certain situation, and what happens when you're in fight or flight, and what happens when you are not in fight or flight, and how can we make the best of both scenarios as you go throughout your day so you can make the best decision for health and vitality, healing and rebuilding. And we do it with 3 avenues. We move the brain, we feed the brain, and we talk to the brain. You may be already talking to the brain. Want to find out if you're doing it well? I'll let you know. Moving the brain, of course, chiropractic care. Chiropractic is how I reach the brain. Your spine, they're like little levers. Well, they are levers, but they are my contact points to your brain to calm down that fight or flight response. Because we don't want you in an energy crisis. And when you're in fight or flight, you burn through your energy like crazy. And then we just don't really know how to give back and replenish that energy. Because all disease is just an exhausted nervous system. And I call it brain drain, learned helplessness. Because your brain will learn a pattern that will drain you. It's going to be a pattern you may find uncomfortable and you don't like, but it's very logical for the situation. Very logical. And I know that's hard for people to understand. Remember, I said everything your brain does is purposeful and for a good reason. Even if you don't like it, even if it's pain and you can't stand that pain, it's happening for a logical reason. We just have to take that deep dive and really look at what's going on with the body. So we have to look at our mental health, our physical health, our mechanical health, that's physical, and we've got to look at our chemical health. What are we ingesting? What are we exposed to that's entering our body? Is it helpful or harmful? So I always think back to Dave and realize we dropped the ball on him. And nobody gave him the help he needed because we ignored the nervous system. A funny thing to say as a mental health therapist, because it's all about how your thoughts turn on the chemicals in your body. Because the mind and body are very well synchronized. And I decided I needed to learn more about the body. I learned about the mind. I needed to understand the body. And that's why I pursued more education. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of that education I taught myself. And going back to college, it was okay. Kind of tiring, kind of exhausting, a very big mental test, because that's what college is. It's, what would you call it? A rite of passage. But not everything I learned was useful, and not everything I learned is applicable. Meaning, it's just old stuff we kept repeating to each other generation through generation through generation. If you want to know more about that, come on into the office and let's have a conversation. What am I unlearning? Because we've all been through that route. Every profession, everybody's college degree, everybody says, you know what, when I learned that, it wasn't right. And sometimes they correct it, and sometimes they just keep rehashing it. That's just the way of the world. You got to figure it out. You got to figure out what information to keep and what information to discard. And that's part of really taking total control of your health and asking questions. So, Dave, I still remember to this day, I don't want people to fall through the cracks. And if you think you're falling through the cracks, you've got to do something different. You can't repeat the same things over and over again. You've got to step out of your comfort zone. You've got to step out of that box. And sometimes I say, get out of the cage. If you understand how an animal lives in a cage and then the door is opened, the animal doesn't leave. The animal has no idea what to do outside of that cage. The animal does not know freedom awaits. That animal just sits right back down in the cage. Because there needs to be a new experience introduced to the brain. Because the brain is only relying on old stuff back here. And that old stuff could be right, it could be wrong. Could be useful, could not be useful. So what part of the cage do you want to live in? Do you want to stay inside the cage, or do you want to explore and check out the new territory? Because that door is wide open. It is wide open, and it's there for you to enter. What do you want to do? Thanks for watching, and look for the next video.